Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back everyone in another YouTube video on the subject called Pros and Cons of being a cabin crew in Doha, Qatar. We all have different reasons why we have become a cabin crew. During my flying experience, what I have observed, most of us have joined the airline in these four circumstances, or there are four stages in which we have decided to be a cabin crew. One of us belong to the group that absolutely loves to travel. The other ones belong to the group that they absolutely hate an office job and they need a job that every day is a different day. The third group will be the ones who might have broken up with their boyfriends, with their girlfriends, and they're looking for something new. And the fourth group is the one who are looking for a career growth, particularly in this field, who are absolutely aware of the possibilities that the airline, in this case related to Qatar Airways, as the fastest growing, one of the fastest growing airlines in the world. So looking for a career growth, in particularly in this airline, knowing the fact that the airline is constantly updating with new destinations, with the youngest fleet in the world, etc., etc. Whether you are a candidate that loves to join and it's in process of joining the airline, or you are an aviation enthusiastic who wants to know about this field, in particularly about the job description of a cabin crew, I'm very sure you know that our perception of the cabin crew job is often, if not always, different from the reality. I absolutely know that out there on YouTube, as a social network platform, and a lot of blogs as well, there are people who are sharing their experience in all possible sense of the words. There has been a negative experience that has been shared. Now, what I would like to tell you is that I will never come up on my YouTube channel with a demand of something, because I strongly believe that everyone has the freedom to express their feelings and their experience in this field as it is. But I strongly believe that it's up to your intelligence level to decide whom you are getting inspired from, which story you're gonna take as a motivation, and what you are going to be following. It's really purely depends on you and your ability to judge and to see whether my story can be your story as well. So what is it being a cabin crew in Qatar really like? I've worked for Qatar Airways for 10 years in all the grades of the cabin crew field, starting from an F2 crew member or a cabin crew in economy until being a cabin service director or an in-flight purser when I left my job. And also I was part of the brand ambassadors cabin crew teams. I don't know everything, but I've learned a lot in my decade of flying experience. I'm certainly not making this video to tell you what to do, but I'm here to inspire you and to motivate you that you should be doing whatever you're curious about and whatever makes you happy when it comes to the job of a cabin crew. I will be focusing on the pros and cons that are general and that are pretty much similar for all the cabin crew in the commercial airline field. Nevertheless, I'm gonna be emphasizing the ones who were really important to me, the ones who were a struggle to me, and what is more important over here is I'm gonna tell you how I was dealing with my cons, because definitely staying in the airline for 10 years is definitely by itself a definition for me that I'm someone who has worked really hard on the cons, because we all know that when we cannot work on the cons, we often quit the job and we move forward, which I don't think it's a bad idea or it's a bad example. I absolutely believe that we should all do whatever makes us happy, as I said at the beginning. But nevertheless, talking about the cons over here, I'm responsibly stating that I do have a credibility to talk about it, since I have spent a decade in the airline as a cabin crew. The first very important prong for me was the travel benefits. When you are a cabin crew in the Middle East, you've got you are entitled actually for so-called tickets with a 90% discount and with a 50% discount. You're also those tickets are also entitled for your family, for your immediate family, but you are getting an amount of friends that you would like to enroll. As now this number it differs from time to time. I wouldn't be able to tell you how many people you can enroll right now. Perhaps it's 5, it used to be 15, but anyway, you are getting a chance to enroll your friends so you can plan vacations with your friends. I have done that so many times with my friends. I have flown with my family has come to visit me. I also had enrolled my boyfriend, my husband, when he was my boyfriend, so he was frequently visiting me in Doha. So if you are planning to be a cabin crew in Doha, beside the fact that you can go home anytime you wish on your days off on the most affordable price of tickets with a 90% discount and with a 50% discount, you can also make dear people beside your family to come and visit you and to plan a vacation with them. So I think that this is a wow prawn that anyone can benefit from. The variety of schedule, or the so-called different rosters, which is absolutely amazing. You're getting on a monthly base roster with different destinations. You have the right to bid for your favorite destinations and to get 2, 3, or somebody is even lucky to get 5 destinations that they have been bidding for. It is also amazing that you are constantly flying with a different set of crew, therefore you should be having an outgoing personality and a great interpersonal skills. So this kind of schedule will be something that you are going to be perfectly fitting in. With having all this said, there is a rhythm when you're working as a cabin crew in Qatar Airways, but there is also an element of change that is constantly happening. This is the aspect of the different rosters and the different sets of crew that we're flying all the time. The best part of it, you are never ever bored. Beside the variety of schedule or different rosters, there comes the part of variety of scenarios in which your destination can never be the same experience because you're all the time flying with different sets of crew. And if you were in New York this month, when you will be going the next month to New York, it's going to be a different experience because more or less in those 24 hours, let's take this as a middle line that in one destination you can get 24 hours to stay. Sometimes you're staying more than 24 hours, sometimes you're staying 48 hours, sometimes you're staying 13 hours. It depends on which flight number you're operating, but your destinations, it's never going to be a different experience because you're all the time flying with different people, and you can also make your own schedule to visit different places every time you are going and visiting that destination. Definitely mentioning all these things, one New York flight with one set of passengers is one experience. Again, the next month New York flight with different sets of passengers beside cabin crew is also a different experience. So this is something that will never ever make you bored while performing your duties as a cabin crew in Qatar Airways. My 1 month roster as a cabin crew would look like Sao Paulo, Barcelona, Copenhagen, New Delhi, Frankfurt, Berlin. Can you imagine being in all these places in just 1 month? It's really amazing to just think about it, and it's even more amazing to experience that. The other prawn for me were my colleagues or the cabin crew. As someone who absolutely adores the cabin crew community, for me it has always been fascinating and amazing experience. I have met cabin crew and I have worked with cabin crew with literally all over the world. Starting from Europe to Asia to South America. It's been a pleasure, it's been an amazing experience. While some of them will be highly having a high degree education, some of them will be having the high school degree education. You will fly with those who have a PhDs as well. It is definitely a fascinating and a motivating experience when you meet all these people that will definitely inspire you. On the other hand, I must be honest, you're definitely gonna fly with people who are gonna be annoying to you. Now the good part is over here that you're all the time flying with different people, and the possibility to fly with the same person, again, the person that was annoying you, is very less, so don't worry about it. Another prong for me was mastering the social skills and people. Now, being surrounded with average of 300 to 400 people on every flight definitely made me someone who can read body language and who can understand body behavior. This is all connected to the different situations that we are facing every day as a cabin crew. While on a certain flight, we might be required to act in a first aid case, to administer first aid to passengers that are needed. In other flights, we are acting as police, or we are there to stop certain behavior that is, let's say, against the rules and regulations of the airline. On a third flight, we are also acting as babysitters when we have the kids being naughty and the babies crying. We are there to assist the mothers and to offer the assistance and care that it's necessary and that it's crucial in that particular moment. So every cabin crew in their role and in their duties are actually performing loads of other duties that are not common while you are working in another field of the customer service industry. So having all this said, once you are a cabin crew, your interaction with people is very easy. Your way of understanding emotions is also easy, and your way to correspond to people's needs and to understand people's emotions is really, really high. Talking from this perspective now, as a cabin crew with the 10 years of experience, made me a person that has friends literally all over the world. I'm interacting with my colleagues and with my cabin crew from all over the world. I'm keeping that communication close. I am thankful to all these social networks for that reason. And whenever I go, me and my husband, I'd love to meet them and I'd love to see them. So this is one of the positive aspects of being a cabin crew in Qatar, that you will literally make friends from all over the world. And when your flying career stops, just make sure that you maintain those relationships close. Your work is left at work. With having the last passenger disembarking from the aircraft, once your flight is over, that's the time that your work is done, and you have the luxury of not bringing your work at home. That means the flight is over. Tomorrow, if you're having a day off, that's amazing. If you're having another flight, that means another set of crew, another set of passengers. So I think that this is the beauty, one of the beauty of the pros of the cabin crew job is that we don't need to bring the work at home. Cabin crew in economy class and cabin crew in the business class are not required to write voyage reports. For us that have been cabin seniors and cabin service directors, we are entitled and it is required from us to write voyage reports, but that is something that we do really quickly after the flight, and once we're home, we are enjoying and relaxing, and the work is left at work. The job itself teaches you to be so much independent that for a period of time you might be thinking that you're stuck in your comfort zone, which is true, but I would like to call that as your isolation a period or a time when you are really mentally growing so much. All of the aspects previously that I have mentioned as pros, especially for those of us that have been in the airline business and in particularly in the cabin crew description for so many years, we will agree that we have been in a comfort zone because we have stayed there for a long time. But I would like to say that as a period of isolation in which we have become so much independent that we didn't want to face a situation where we should leave our independency or our financial satisfaction from the job that we had. Again, the other pro for me was that I was very independent, and that made me really strong, and that made me really resistant towards many things that I was facing in life while I was working as a cabin crew. Another pro I forgot to mention is the accommodation that has been provided to you if you're a cabin crew in Qatar Airways. Along with your accommodation, you are most probably sharing it with another flatmate, but you definitely have your own bedroom and your own bathroom. At least I had it for the past 10 years, and I know that all my friends were having their separate bedrooms and bathrooms together. You are only sharing with your flatmate the living room and the kitchen. Also, in the buildings where you are living, there is swimming pool and there is a gym facility. Also, what is important is that your uniform is free of charge to be washed in the dry cleaning, or you have a separate place in your building where you leave your uniform for dry cleaning, so that in that cases you are always groomed fully and until the maximum with a clean uniform. And another very important thing when I'm mentioning the accommodation and the free laundry, it is that your way from your accommodation to your work is always organized, literally punctual to minutes, and you don't have to worry about the way how you're going to reach your work, where you are signing in for the flight, and all the other trainings that are required from you to be done. All your transport work related is organized for you, and this is something that really needs to be applauded. I'm going now to the cons. One of the first cone that I would suggest you, if you are not able to work with and to overgo with, if you're coming from the normal daily routine life, is that you will never have weekends off. We as a cabin crew, we function on something called rosters and something called flying hours per month. So your days off are determined by dates. If you get a weekend off, then that means you're very lucky. If you have been smart and you have been planning to be free for the vacation of your, to have a vacation for your family gatherings, for birthdays and stuff like that, then it's also awesome. You really need to plan this on 6 months basis, because you are having a period of 30 days entitled leave per year that you can divide them accordingly. So this is all up to you. If you want to combine that 1 month vacation in the entire 1 year together, or you want to separate it 15 days in the first 6 months and 15 days in the last 6 months. But definitely what you should know is that as a cabin crew, you will never have your weekends off, and this is a con that you must accept it from the beginning. Then it's going to be your stay over there, it's going to be much easily accepted, and perhaps you won't even be bothered with this. Another con that cabin crew are facing, and I was facing, was also the jet lag. Therefore, in order to keep myself fit in this manner and to have a proper sleeping management, I was the pattern of 24 hours. I was following in a way that when I'm leaving base or when I'm leaving Doha and I'm reaching to a destination with a different time zone, and that is happening always, I am functioning and I'm following that time zone. Now, having this said, it's not always possible, as for example, you are reaching in destinations sometimes early in the morning, while with the time difference when you left the base, it is still afternoon over there. It can be exhausting, but of course, caffeine intake is always increased among the cabin crew. Whatever works for you to stay awake, do it. Perhaps some of you would want to go and exercise and keep that adrenaline higher after the flight in order to stay awake. But if you're trying to function according to the time zone in the destination where you are landing, I can promise you that the sleeping management will be definitely a better experience. You will feel less jet lagged. When it comes to taking sleeping pills, I was never taking sleeping pills, but I was taking a syrup that I was buying in US, which is right here. I wasn't taking this syrup. I was buying it in Walmart. I wasn't taking this syrup always, only when I am really unable to sleep, and that was happening very rare, because as I said, I was the one, I was a cabin crew that was always, this is what actually were teaching us in training, that when we are landing in the destinations we are going, we always have to try to follow the time zone of the destination that we are. Now, many of the cabin crew, of the current cabin crew or the cabin crew that have resigned, were not able to do that. So I suggest you guys to really think and really consider this. Jet lag feeling and this sleeping management requires a lot of dedication, a lot of practice. You will be sometimes really exhausted, but you really need to give and try your best. If you're not ready to work on your jet lag experience, if you're really not ready to give up on your beauty sleep, your job as a cabin crew may not be a pleasant work experience. Therefore, think about this, whether you're able to do it or not. My favorite cone, and I have faced with this cone, is when I gain, believe it or not, approximately 82 kilos. This is a picture of me in economy class, and this is a picture of me when I became a cabin senior. There is a huge difference. I worked the hell out of this to get this kind of look, because it was not easy. It was everything but easy. Now, you will find yourself, for most of us, for many of us cabin crew, we find ourselves in a situation where we're really gaining weight a lot. Now, you can give up and you can go home and say, this is not for me, I've gained weight and that's it. But I really want to fly. Now, if you're in a position that you really want to fly, then you should start doing something about it. What is amazing about Qatar is that it offers literally all the possible ways to stay physically active. They have the amazing gyms. You're getting a great salary in which one you can enroll to many of the gyms, and you can also be you can also get a personal trainer. You can also work out with your flatmate, for instance, if because I had an experience when I was living with my flatmate. With my last flatmate from India, we were both very dedicated to gym and to motivating and to exercising, that even when we were not exercising, we were constantly reminding each other and motivating each other that this is important to do your exercise. Even if she's in New York and I'm in Doha, she would text me, did you do your exercise today? And with having all this said, I think I want to say to you, thank you so much for being my motivational boost in the moments when I was really not feeling hitting the gym, but yet your motivational speeches in this subject have really helped me in those moments. And again, I want to say thank you. Now, as I said, there are thousands of ways to stay fit. And as I said previously, in one of the pros, you've got your gym in your accommodation. If you really don't want to spend money, but one thing is really important in this case is that you have to give up on the amazing food that you're going to be having a possibility to taste all over the world, to focus on your diet. What I was doing, because I'm vegetarian, so I was always preparing my own food at home, which is, let's say, baked mushrooms, a boiled egg, a small pack of brown rice. So I make sure that in the flight I'm eating I'm following my healthy diet. So this cone, if you work on it, should not be a problem for you. But if you definitely find yourself in a situation of weight gain, you might want to quit, and the cabin crew job experience might not be a pleasant experience. The irregular sleeping pattern, the so-called jet lag, the weight gaining, these are all something that can lead to possible health problems. As a cabin crew, we are getting an insurance packages. We have been highly advised by the management from the time we're joining training, that anything that doesn't seems to be right for us, remember, in the non-negotiable rules and regulations, it's required that we should be in excellent health and condition. Now, if at any point of our flying career we think that something goes wrong, we should always double check. Now, from my point of view as a cabin crew with 10 years experience, I was doing a checkup on myself, which was including a normal checkup at the general practitioner, which means the blood the blood test, normal blood test, in which they are checking hemoglobin, they're checking the blood sugar and stuff like that. I was doing that every 6 months. And also as a woman, from a woman point of view, I was doing my gynecology checkup also every 6 months. So if you position yourself in a way to check your health, your general health, every 6 months, I don't think that this should be an issue. Yet people who have not raised their awareness to check their health every 6 months or every 1 year might develop health problems. So always the key to this cone is prevention. So therefore, follow my example. One of the cone that can happen if you're a cabin crew in Qatar Airways is that you can come up to a point where you're really gonna feel burnout, or you're really gonna feel exhausted and tired of everything. It happened to me. I have felt like that. The beauty of this right now is that you have a manager in your role as a cabin crew. Prior to that, I would like to give you an advice. It is very important that you develop a relationship which is a positive, in a relationship in which you are benefiting, both of you, from your manager and you as a cabin crew. In what I would like to say is that in that relationship you set up the positive expectation. Every line manager or every cabin crew manager will be expecting from the cabin crew punctuality, dedication, to love the job, all the aspects that you're supposed to be having to get the job. If you come to a situation to forget the criteria that you were recruited with, and you come up to a point in your flying career that you really don't care about anything else, that's the time you might experience a bad relationship with your manager. If you experience that, when you feel burned out, you might not it might not be the best experience for you, as you will be afraid to approach your manager, and most probably you will not tell your manager what is happening inside your mind, how do you feel and stuff like that. From my point of view, when this happened to me, as I was having a very close relationship with both my managers, my manager as a cabin senior and my manager as a cabin service director, I openly speak about it. I was assisted in getting a leave, and actually in my case was getting a desired number of days off, in which I had to go and I had to vent out. My priority as a cabin crew was always developing relationships with my managers, with my colleagues that were positive, because I knew that in some situations I might be stopped to perform the duties just the way I was stopped when I felt burnout and when I felt exhausted of the rhythm, of the rosters. There was a chain of flights that were very, very hectic. It was an intensive period of time for me, but I managed it because beside a cabin crew, beside being recruited as a cabin crew, you should in your open day you are also observed as someone who can have self-managing skills. Again, I'm gonna connect this to the recruitment. I'm very sorry, but when they are looking at your qualities and qualifications as a candidate, and when they are asking you all those tricky questions, what you would do in this situation, what you would do in that situation, the recruitment team is not doing that to give you hard time, but it's doing that to see that in situations like mine, for example, when I had my burnout, when I was exhausted, you can be someone who can manage that rather than saying I just give up and I don't do that anymore. Remember, challenges in every job are literally happening on a daily basis, and especially living far away from home, just like I was, requires us to be very strong and requires from us to be good managers of our own lives. The rules and regulations of Qatar Airways. We all know that the airline has numerous rules and regulations that the cabin crew community is following them. And if you are someone who thinks that can absolutely not function and work in coloration with the rules and regulations that the airline has, then definitely you should not join the airline from first moment itself. One of the rule and regulation that it's widely famous is the one that we on our days off we should be back in our accommodation by 4 o'clock in the morning. And for me that is absolutely fine, because the clubs in Doha are working until 2 o'clock in the morning. You've got another 2 hours to go out after that, to eat, to spend time with friends, to come back home and to sleep, to be well rested. Now, if you're someone who wants to go out and who doesn't care where you're gonna end up, you want to sleep with your friends, or you just want to be back after 2 to 3 days, then definitely you shouldn't be joining the job of being a cabin crew with Qatar Airways, as this rule is something that you will not be able to cope with. On the other hand, if you, let's say, want to sleep at your friend's place and your friend is a cabin crew in Qatar Airways, of course it should be of the same sex as you. If you're female, should be female. If you're male, should be male. This rule with having males and females, you guys must understand, it's not related to Qatar Airways, but it's a cultural rule of the country. So I wouldn't go into unnecessarily talks about it, as it has been there since I'm in the airline in the year 2009, and it's a rule that we all respected, and it's cultural rule related to the country itself. So having talked about the rule that we should be back at 4 o'clock in the morning, for me it was absolutely okay, as we would party until 2, we'd go with my friends, we would eat, and all of us that stayed there for a long time, and my colleagues that are still there and that are still flying, were perfectly coping with it, as I said, because there is a room to cope. I seriously do not see anything bad, and I don't see that as a disadvantage. Now, my serious recommendation when it comes to the rules of Qatar Airways is you will be following and you will be listening loads of YouTubers talking about the rules of Qatar Airways, and that is totally fine. Remember, understanding the rules and implementing the rules, it goes from person to person on a different level. I am a graduated student of Police Academy. I am trained to live by rules and regulations, and for me, none of the rules and regulations in Qatar Airways was a problem. Yet I was able to date my husband, yet I was able to get married, and while I was flying, and resign my job in the most perfect circumstances I did. Some people were not able to cope with the rules and regulations, not because maybe they haven't understood it, but because they behaved different than it. Now, if you are someone that can absolutely not cope with the rules and regulations that the airline has, then just don't apply for the job. If you have doubts, what are the rules and regulations within the company, guys or ladies and gentlemen, you have contacts with your recruiters. Ask your recruiters. When your recruiters will give you a possibility to ask a question, ask about it. Familiarize yourself with it. I have elaborated the rules and regulations, the minimum rest, for example, the 12 hours minimum rest in this video, or how I coped with that rule, and that rule was nothing bad for me, and I've managed to, as I said, I've managed to resign at the age of 34 and deliver my baby girl at the age of 35, because I was always constantly well rested before every flight, because that is a rule that I have completely understood. It didn't bother me. It helped me in my personal discipline and my approach, my responsible approach towards the job. If you want to have a successful career, and you want to have a stress-free career, I suggest you that you should respect the rules and regulations that the airline has. Majority of the rules and regulations are culturally determined, and I do not see any problem that you cannot have a life. Very often you are asking me that people have no life, or you guys are hearing stories that that's a prison. In my entire 10 years of flying career, I was having my car in Qatar, I was driving, as I said, I was having my friends over there, I was exercising in various of gyms outside. I never felt that I'm in a prison. I was just over there a manager of my own life, and the moment you understand that you have guidelines according to which one you should position yourself, and you should incorporate those guidelines in your lifestyle, then it's going to be a less problem. That's why in the open days and in the recruitment days, the recruitment team are so much emphasizing on the aspect that the cabin crew job in the Middle East, in Qatar, is a lifestyle. You must be dedicated motivated, and you must be ready to commit to that lifestyle. If you're not ready to commit to that lifestyle, I'm sorry to say this, then just simply don't apply, or find an airline that has their standards, their rules and regulations that are more acceptable and more close to you. And the last con for me would be the relationships. This is a subject that I can be talking about in a separate video, but briefly I'm gonna give you an explanation, and I'm gonna tell you. I have met the so-called passport cabin crew. Why I call them passport cabin crew? They'll be the ones who will be on WhatsApp whenever they're off. Whenever they have their days off, they would text anyone, and they absolutely have no criteria of having a quality time, because they just want to be out and they just want to spend their time with whoever is free, and that's it. For me, I was the person that is totally different. I would rather stay at home and do my exercise perhaps, or do my shoppings, rather than being out with whoever is free. I had my own circle of people, which was containing around 10 people, which some of them were cabin crew, some of them were not cabin crew, and my days off were purely related to creating a quality time. And when that quality time was only with me, I made sure at its best level. You might find a challenge to face this when it comes to relationship with your loved ones, with your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Yet don't forget that the cheap tickets I talked about is something that can compensate. You can plan amazing vacation with your loved ones. It's just until that vacation comes, you have to have really resistance. You have to be someone who's going to be really looking for the great time that you're going to be together. And this is something that you can also compensate in times when you feel down, and in times when you feel that having a relationship, it's impossible. No, it is impossible. It just requires a lot of give-ups. And it requires a lot of understanding. On the other hand, it's good, because once you get in touch with a partner, with a boyfriend and a girlfriend who can understand your job and who can support you, you can definitely rely on that person and think about that person on a long term. I frequently share my experience with my husband. I met my husband when I was flying as a cabin senior, then I became cabin service director. We were dating, he was coming and visiting me in Doha. Now, it is very important with the relationship, the financial stability of your partner. In this, I will take a few minutes. Guys, don't forget that as a cabin crew, you are financially stable. If you're dating someone who's not financially stable like you might find obstacles, because that person might be having frustrations over him, because he or she is not earning as you do. And you will be always the one who can pay your tickets, be nicely dressed, go anywhere, travel with cheap tickets, or travel as a cabin crew. So over here, you might experience a little bit of jealousy with your own partner. So therefore, when you are choosing your relationship partner, think deep. And I'm not saying that you should choose someone who's financially stable, but you should choose someone who's at least at your level, so he or she can offer you the understanding and can offer you the support that you will be very often needing. Now, on a personal note, I would like to end this video and to tell you that becoming a cabin crew for Qatar Airways has changed my life forever. And I would honestly suggest to whoever is watching this video to stop looking for the pros and cons of becoming a cabin crew. Just go out there if you get the job and do it. There are two elements that can happen from this job. It can be the best experience and it can be the worst experience. And whatever experience that you are sharing, you are observing and you're watching and you're listening out there on the social media, remember, it's only and purely based on individual's experience of the one who is sharing. Just like I do, and I share it with you in this moment, my pros and cons, and the cons that I was working on and I was able to work on. That person who's sharing negative experience is doing that from their own part, and in both cases we are affecting majority of people outside. Some will be guided and will get inspired by the negative experience, and some will get inspired by the positive experience. And that also depends on what type of person you are. Are you a pessimist? or you're an optimist just like me. Having all these things said, please don't forget to click subscribe on my YouTube channel, to follow me on my Instagram account right here, and I'm gonna be seeing you very soon in another YouTube video. Bye bye and have a nice day.